and welcome back to the channel where we mainly cover kenjitsu, iaijitsu, and anything related to sword generally. Today we're going to cover the top 10 mistakes martial artists make, and we're going to start everything from beginners to even up to the advanced. I definitely speak from experience when I talk about these top 10 mistakes martial artists make. So these are definitely some that I've made in the past, and I'm just trying to put this video together to make it easier for you if you're going into a dojo somewhere and you want to give a good impression. If any of these top 10, if you feel like I missed some, please put them in the comments below. Number one is has to do with respect. And if you walk into a dojo and say you've never been to this dojo before, come in the front door, sit down, maybe you have to take your shoes off and, line up somewhere so that you can watch class. And if you're thinking about joining that class, if you have experience in the martial arts, don't start talking about all of your experience in the martial arts. You really need to be quiet, and that your experience will come out either when you start moving or you start doing something. Always wait till the instructor asks if you've had any martial arts experience. The other thing about respect is you want to make sure you respect everybody in the dojo. So whether it's the lowest person that just came in the door or the teacher, you should have equal respect for everybody in the dojo. Number two is making excuses. If you do something wrong and maybe you've done it right 100 times and then you do it wrong and then you get corrected that one wrong time, the tendency is to make an excuse of why you did it wrong or whatever, and don't make any excuses for anything, and just move on and take the lesson and go on from there. Okay, number three is really a big one, is work your weaknesses. And what I mean by that is you may have one kick on one side that you can do really well, but the kick on the other leg is not very good. So what you'll do is you'll practice the good side all the time and you'll avoid the bad side. Really what you should do is whatever side is bad, you want to do that 10 times to every one time you practice the good side, so that you can balance those out and get your brain working both sides, whether it's Aikido, karate, judo, whatever. Number four has to do with self-awareness, meaning when the teacher tells you to make a correction, and I've seen this all the time where the teacher shows a correction and the student keeps doing the same thing over and over and over wrong because they don't have the self-awareness. They think what they're doing is exactly what the teacher showed. Because I remember I was in a seminar, I think it was an Aikido seminar, and the teacher showed the technique, and then everybody sort of went on and did their own version of that technique. They never really studied what it is the teacher demonstrated to study. So really start developing a self-awareness to where what you see or what you think you're doing and what you see on video are the same thing. And that's why I encourage to videotape yourself so that you can see what you're actually doing and not what you think you're doing. Number five is what I'm going to call the black belt syndrome. When you get your black belt, you're more confident, you've acquired these techniques, and you're skilled in these techniques. And really, you've got to step away from that and really get to a point where you don't have any concept that you have rank. Because what happens is you don't go to the dojo every time, and you've got to consider you're a beginner. You're starting over every day. You're going to look for your mistakes. You're going to look to improve, just like you did when you're a beginner. So really losing that concept, one thing you can do is put on a white belt. Have everybody in the dojo put on a white belt, and see if it affects your mentality. It really shouldn't. You should be able to put on a white belt and have the same skill or have the same presence in the dojo with a white belt on or a black belt. It shouldn't really matter. Another thing you can do is start a new martial art. I've been doing this 40 years, and I just started training in jiu-jitsu. It's a totally different martial art I'm used to standing up and doing everything from standing. And jiu-jitsu, you're upside down, everything, all the principles are the same, but you're upside down, your brain is not wired that way. So it's like I'm starting all over again. So always make yourself the beginner. No matter how good you get in another martial art, you can always start all over, even if you have to start training a different martial art. So number six has to do with teaching. And either you were thrown into a teaching position because there was nobody else there to teach the class and you were the senior student, or you decided that you wanted to go out and teach, so you became a teacher. And either way, you want to learn that teaching is not just teaching somebody else, it's teaching a perspective or teaching beginners as you begin teaching, and then you want to level up to where your teaching becomes a higher quality as you go along. And what I mean by that is when you first start to teach, you sort of bark out orders and you show what you were taught, and then you sort of evolve to where you start teaching each individual student differently instead of just teaching the same thing to every student. And then your progression actually happens because you are teaching. You are teaching those different levels and you're seeing it differently yourself. So the worst thing you can do as a teacher is you teach what you were taught, okay? And you never move on from that. This is right, and that's all you know is what's right. But you never get into the deeper levels of skill by teaching and evolving as a teacher. And that's one main point. You have to have a good teacher to learn these concepts of how to be a good teacher. One thing I'd like to say about teaching is the worst thing I've seen with teaching is people start teaching and then they never grow themselves. They just teach from their level of skill or expertise, and then they stay exactly the same. So they do the same thing 30 years later as they were doing when they first started. So the idea in teaching is you want to use teaching as your own building process. To recap, what a good teacher does is they actually individualize their lessons to their students. So they might teach this student differently, much differently than they teach this student. And also you teach in levels. So you teach in layers. Once they get that skill, you teach the next way, you teach the next way. And not just blanket style teaching. Okay, number 7 is divisions. When you first start in martial arts, you see, I might do Aikido or karate, and then I see everything else is different or not as good or whatnot. And so you don't want to create divisions in the martial arts because there's a lot of skills you can gain from doing Aikido that you can't as easily gain from karate. So a lot of people cross-train in maybe jiu-jitsu, karate, Aikido to gain a bunch of different skills. So seeing the similarities between the martial arts is, I think, the ultimate goal, and seeing how they're all one big family and not, pushing them away and creating divisions among different martial arts. And that even goes for division within, say, Aikido schools. If you go to this Aikido school or this karate school, then you don't like the other karate school. And so seeing the similarities between the different schools within a group, like the Aikido or Taekwondo or Judo or Jiu-Jitsu, seeing the similarities and making camaraderie in those different groups is, I think, the way to go instead of divisions within divisions. And ultimately, within your own dojo, you don't want to have divisions within your own dojo. Each student is a little bit different, each personality is a little bit different, but have the camaraderie, the coming together of one school, because I've seen so many schools go away because of paranoia or divisions or personalities or things like that. And I've made those mistakes myself. So as you get older, you start to bring everything together as one big family instead of the divisions that sort of separate everybody. Now there's a lot of differences of opinion of how you start with an instructor, and what I think the best thing is to start with one instructor, stick with that instructor for at least 10 years and really pour yourself into that discipline. And then once you get there, then you're starting to get some proficiency. Then you can take the similarities and then go out and expand your bubble, so to speak. But I think the best thing to do is start with one person and stick with them for about 10 years instead of just dabbling in everything. Number 9 is probably the most important, is letting politics and different bickerings of groups affect your own training, because your training should be steady and growing. And when you start getting into politics, rank and all that stuff, and all those things that are not really important, it will start affecting your training. A lot of people quit. I think they quit the martial arts because of these political things. And so getting to where you can stay true to your training and not let those political things or rank, you should really lose the necessity for rank after you reach black belt. Then you shouldn't need rank at that point. So yeah, don't let those political things steer your martial arts training. And number 10 is last, and this is really important, is don't, all of us have different approaches to the martial arts, and no one way is wrong. What's right for me is not necessarily right for you. So I'm on my own path, and I'm gonna stay true to my own path, but don't hold those expectations for everybody. Let everybody train in your dojo. Not everybody's gonna master all the skills necessary to, get to the highest level. Pick the certain students and, let them rise above the rest. But, don't hold anybody back, obviously, but everybody's got a difference for training, and respect those training differences. So to finish up, those are my top 10. If you have different ones that I've missed, please put in the comments below so all of us can learn from them. If you'd like more videos, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.